All right. Hey, hello everyone. Thank you so much for attending this year's last Innovate and Advance series where we host amazing trailblazing women like Charlene Li. We have a fantastic session today. Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes before we begin. Charlene will be presenting for the majority of this time. We'll wrap up with a Q&A at the very end, so hold your questions until then or drop them in chat and kindly keep yourselves on mute during the session to minimize background noise. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Uvika. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Padmini. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce Charlene Li. She is a leading expert in business transformation strategy and disruptive leadership, and the New York Times bestselling author of 6 books, including her most recent, The Disruption Mindset. And she is currently working on her next book, Winning with Generative AI, bringing her practical executive level lens to one of the biggest shifts leaders face today. And I cannot wait to get my hands on this book because I learned about it last year when I had met Charlene at Harvard Business School. And coincidentally, she happens to be there today. So I'm super excited to get my hands on the book. Charlene has also advised 49 of the Fortune 100 companies and worked with hundreds of top companies from Adobe to Southwest Airlines, helping leaders turn big change into measurable progress. She has been on a number of global stages like the World Economic Forum, TED, and South by Southwest. She's also a builder, and she was the founder and CEO of a disruptive analyst firm, Ultimate Terra Group, and also served as the Chief Research Officer at PA Consulting. And today has turned to her entrepreneurial roots, running her own firm, Quantum Networks Group. And she is also a graduate of Harvard College and Harvard Business School. And Charlene was also named one of the Fast Company's most creative people in business. I can go on and on this entire evening, but I will spare that and hand over the stage to Charlene. Charlene, we are super excited and thank you so much for doing this for us.
Yeah, so happy to be here. And I have slides to share, and I'm only on my laptop, so hopefully I can see the chat and everything else. But I'll check in every once in a while to see if you have any questions. And this is very informal. And you're the first ones. I usually put like a lessons learned and predictions and priorities for 2026. So you're like guinea pigs. So I would love to hear what you all think about this. All right, let me share my slides. All right. All right, so what I really want to talk about today, I'm just going to jump right into it. All right, so the first lesson I have is that this was not the year of AI. We keep saying that this is going to be the year of AI, the year of agentic AI, whatever. And we've just been promising this for forever, it feels like, for the past 3 years. And the reality I think that's set in this year is that AI isn't magic and it won't revolutionize industries like quickly. The change is a lot slower in the short term and a lot bigger in the medium and long term than we anticipate. And this has been true of many disruptive transformations. And the thing to realize is that this transformation with AI, it's going to be a marathon, and that we are only in the very, very early miles of running that marathon. And so, again, there were all these promises that 2025 would be the year of agentic AI. And yes, we have a lot of these agents, but I think people promise that this would be fully autonomous knowledge workers who you can take a marketing person and replace them with an agentic AI. It's just not there. And it's a little bit underwhelming, actually, when you look at a lot of these agentic workflows. So I think they're still incredibly powerful, but we are still very much in the early stages here today. So that's one lesson, is that I think we have to temper our expectations of what AI can do in the short term. But I think also at the same time that we are not necessarily thinking big enough in the medium and long term. So it's not the year of AI. I kind of think about it as the 5 years of AI. It's not quite a decade of AI, but it's definitely not a year. All right, so that's lesson number one. The lesson number two is that you all have probably seen this MIT report that said 95% of AI is failing. And that's very real. But the reason it's failing is not because of technology. It's really much more about how organizations are deploying AI. And we have this situation of what I call pilot purgatory, because it comes from people mistaking the fact that we're doing lots of activities and we're trying lots of different things and we're analyzing lots of things, and that's good. That is action and moving forward. The reality, it's actually hurting. And the reason why many of these initiatives are failing is because we're throwing something out, but we're not putting the commitment and the hard work and the detailed work to look at the process, to give it the right data, and especially, do we have employees who are ready to take what AI can do and actually use it to get work done? I think it's also a lack of leadership in terms of prioritizing what will actually work. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on in terms of how to fix this problem. But what we're finding is that a lot of organizations are trying a lot of things, and you're seeing some things sticking and working, but I sense what I'm seeing is a general sense of like, how do we create value with AI? Why is it not working? There's all this promise. Where is it? The things we're trying are just small, incremental. It's not really that big of a deal. So people are really wondering, is this an AI bubble now? And is it about to burst? I think there may be an AI bursting of the bubble in terms of the valuations that are happening. But I think in 2026, we're actually going to see companies actually figuring out how to create value, really buckling down and making their investments count. So it'll be a bubble in some ways, with prices potentially dropping. Who knows what's happening with the markets? If somebody can predict that, I would love to talk to them. But I do think that right now, what we learned in 2025 is that it's a lot harder to actually create value with AI. And it's primarily because of the way we are approaching it. All right. Lesson number 3 is that the AI hype, the hype versus the reality gap is actually a feature. So again, there's a lot of people who are concerned about that AI hype and exuberance. But I think we also are seeing, so again, 95% of AI pilots are failing, but we're also finding from a different statistic that 74% of companies are seeing some sort of value from AI. Again, it's not a huge amount in many cases, but they're seeing this value being created from the experiments. And now they're actually shifting that to figure out, how do we drive real business value? Because there's a belief that there actually is. And the 5% of the programs that are actually delivering value are the ones that are actually focusing on a very specific pain point and executing on that very, very well. So the lesson that we've learned is that the place where it actually works, when the AI hype turns into the reality of where AI value is being created, is when it's connected to one of your top strategic goals. And that it's not a laundry list of use cases that is working. That long list of use cases is not a priority. It is not a way to say, these are the most important places where we want to invest in AI. Lesson number 4 is that there is a tremendous amount of fear and anxiety, especially in the United States, and that the organizations that are not addressing that anxiety are making it worse. And so many organizations are not saying anything about what they're doing with AI, or even acknowledging that that fear and anxiety is there. And so people are assuming that because you're not telling me, it must be really bad news. You're preparing to use AI to take away all of our jobs. And there are some organizations, and there are very few organizations like Amazon, that are declaring that AI will be central to everything that they do, and being very honest and letting people know that the total workforce will shrink over time. And Amazon in particular has been going through a lot of layoffs, and a lot of tech companies are doing this, but a lot of it has to do with the over investment they made and people doing COVID, they're right sizing that. But more frequently, what we're finding is people are freezing their hiring. What I'm finding is that people are just not having the right dialogue. And I don't think you can promise people that their jobs won't be impacted by AI. And even if you said that, they wouldn't believe you anyways. But what you can promise them is that you'll provide them training, that you're giving them the resources, and very importantly, you set aside the time so they can learn to be AI fluent and prepared for the future. And I'll talk about that as a priority, especially in getting your workforce to be, and getting yourself to be as AI fluent as possible. But I think this lesson number 4, a very big one, is that we can no longer not talk about and address this fear and anxiety, like what's going to happen to us when AI comes into our workforce. So again, people are struggling with this and they're beginning to figure out how to talk about it. All right, so I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions before I keep going. Any questions at all? There's so many other lessons, and these are the ones that I try to narrow it down to.
No questions, but I think everybody is agreeing and absorbing all that you said.
All right. All right, let me go and talk about, let me just get back to Zoom and share my slides again. Okay, so the biggest thing that I believe is that in 2026, this will be the year when AI is going to separate what I call the winners from the losers. It's the time when people who are able to use AI very well and effectively in their organizations are going to pull away. And the ones who are really prepared to use AI in a strategic way are the ones that are going to really find some advantages. This is why the book that we're about to, and I will give a link at the end so you can download a copy of the first introduction of the book that gives you an overview. The book is called Winning with AI. And we believe that AI can be a strategic way to create competitive advantage. So if you're not winning, then you're losing, kind of the idea. So I really want to I think that 2026 is when we're going to see some organizations, again, really doubling down on AI and really finding the formula for how to make this happen. So I have a couple priorities, and this is, again, based on the things that we're seeing becoming really important in 2026. And the first one is here, is that it's the strategic deployment of AI. So we like to say that use cases are not a strategy. So having a long list of use cases are not going to be helpful, because it just says you're spreading yourself thin. You're going to try a lot of different things and see what works. And we believe that the people who are winning today, and also the people who will be the winners in 2026 in particular, will have a very enterprise-wide and enterprise focus. It'll be strategic and top-down, driven by senior leadership, and it will be a strategic AI roadmap. One of the things is I think it's not quite correct to say you have an AI strategy, because AI is a technology, and it's almost like saying we're going to have an internet strategy. It doesn't make any sense, because you have a business strategy and you have ways that you're going to deploy AI to support that strategy. And so it's not having any more, if anything, I'm encouraging people to don't do any more AI pilots, just ban pilots. In that if you're going to deploy AI, then only deploy it when you have a plan for how you're going to scale it, because it is of such strategic importance that you will go and deploy it. There's no question of, well, do we do it? Do we not? Do we wait and see this ROI? If it's strategic, then you will make it work. Issues of feasibility don't matter, because frankly, I have yet to see an organization that has the capabilities, the resources across the board ready and in-house and able to go and deploy AI. So feasibility doesn't matter, because if it's important to you strategically, then you will make it feasible. You will find the resources, you will hire the people, you will find the consultants, you will find the technology platforms to make it happen. And you will pivot as needed to make the changes so that you can realize these strategic goals. And the other thing I would say is to really define your success of these deployments based on your outcomes. So the ways that you look at your business objectives, what are your KPIs for that business objectives? And then understand, does AI give you the outcomes against those KPIs? And it's not about outputs. Again, outputs are very different from outcomes. Outputs are just the things that you generate. And so you don't think about the ROI of your Wi-Fi. You don't think about the ROI of your laptop. These are essential technologies, and thinking about ROI of AI doesn't make any sense. So it's really thinking about, again, the strategic deployment of AI. I think is going to be a top priority, and something that we see a lot more organizations doing in 2026. All right, the second one is a bit of a counterintuitive. That is to use governance to go fast. And the reason we say this is that speed is the new moat. And what I mean by that is when everyone has access to the same knowledge, to the same technology, when all the world's knowledge is available on just a browser, then the ability to create a competitive advantage against that is really difficult. Yes, you have the data inside your organization that's unique to you, but every organization has data that's unique to them. The way that you create competitive advantage is how quickly you can adopt AI, but then also how quickly can you adapt AI and adapt your organization to use AI in a way that creates value. So the way we think about this is creating what we call Goldilocks governance. And that is governance that's not too much, not too little, just right. So not too much so that it slows everything down, but not too little so that you don't give guidance on what is good, what does good look like, how do you use AI in a responsible and ethical way, what is the scope and the speed and the scale at which you can go. So when you define that using governance, it doesn't cut off options. It actually creates a channel and a funnel to say, go in this direction, because this is where we want to create value. So a very specific part of this in particular is around data governance. And we see many organizations have legacy data in all these silos. And the ability to get access to that data is highly governed by people who, quote, own that data. And if you want to have AI work at that enterprise level, you need to free your data from these silos, because AI doesn't want to see any department silos. It's like, what is this? What do you mean there's a department here? There's an organization, there are customers, departments are irrelevant. And so being able to put in place data governance that defines who can access what data, what they can use for it at that data level rather than at a department level, reduces how much oversight you have to have, all the permissions, the meetings that you have to have. And I think it's one of the fastest ways to use governance in order to allow you to go fast. Because if you can free your data and allow people to get access to it, it makes a huge difference. All right, priority 3, and that is to prepare your HR departments for transformation. This is a great statistic from BCG that successful AI implementations are 10% algorithms, 20% data and technology, and 70% people, process, and culture transformation. And the work that I've done around digital and disruptive transformation absolutely agrees with this. It's never about the technology. It is always about the people. And you can only change as fast as your people change. And so in particular, agentic AI is going to have a tremendous impact on the way people work. And so it's going to, in some cases, gradually change workflows, but it could also very quickly change workflows. It's sort of a go slow or go super fast is what we're seeing when agentic AI gets into the workplace. And that's going to require that HR in particular work with people and with managers in understanding how do you now not only manage people, but you also have to manage agents to deliver outcomes. And again, I think one of the most interesting trends is that HR and IT are coming together into one department. And HR is no longer just handling administrative aspects of hiring and reviews. It is really becoming much more strategic in saying, how do we drive the most productivity and drive the most potential from both people and the agents and the technology that they use. So it makes no sense to separate HR and IT because the two have to work hand in hand together to give people the tools so that they can maximize their potential. So combining HR and IT, which makes in some ways no sense at all. But if you look at it from this perspective of how AI is going to transform organizations, it makes complete and total sense. So I think it's a place where we need to prepare HR and IT, but especially HR for this transformation. One company, Moderna, is very much an AI first, AI ready organization. They only have 800 people. And as a vaccine and pharmaceutical company, they compete against Pfizer, which has 120,000 people, I think. And they're able to do this because they leverage technology so much. And about a year and a half ago, they took their IT department and put it under HR. And it's because their HR person could see that if they wanted to transform the organization, they needed an HR people-driven perspective of how to deploy IT. So it's one of those few organizations that I think are really driving that type of transformation. So I think we're going to see more and more of that in the next year. All right, just a couple more. This is a fun one. I think enterprise-wide AI fluency is extremely important. And I realize I may have to, let me just stop sharing for a second, because I think I have to share things a little bit differently. Here we go. I have to share the sound too as well. Here we go. And this is, I find that executives are very worried about their AI moment. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but let me just play this video for you. This is Linda McMahon, who is the education secretary. Let me see if I can play it.
I heard, I think
Can
it
you all
was
hear
a
it?
letter or report that I heard this morning. I wish I could
Yep,
read the
we can hear
source,
it.
but that there is a school system that's going to start making sure that first graders or even pre-Ks have A1 teaching, every year starting, that far down in the grades. And that's just that's a wonderful thing. Kids are sponges. They just absorb everything. And so it wasn't all that long ago that we're going to have internet in our schools. Whoop. Now, okay, let's see A1 and how can that be helpful? How can it be helpful in one-on-one instruction?
So what she's calling A1 is AI. And
Yes.
so, and you just go, how could she not know that? And I tell you, executives like, I'm afraid of my A1 moment, that I'm going to go out and say something ridiculous and people are just going to laugh and say, you so don't know what's going on. And so there's some tremendous insecurity from people. They know they have to be educated about this and they feel incredibly insecure. And I go, well, what are you using AI for? And he goes, they talk about this and that. I'm like, we're using it a lot. Why do you feel insecure? They go, I just don't have confidence that I know everything I need to know. And so the question becomes, what does it mean to be AI fluent? Have we defined that for our organization? And that's across the entire organization. And we define AI fluent as first, knowing what AI can and can't do, being able to use it responsibly and ethically, and then being able to use it to get your work done. And I have talked to people over and over again, and they say, we have all these courses, all these resources, but no time set aside to go learn it. So there are a couple problems here. First of all, do you have the resources internally to get people to these three areas? Understand what AI can do, know what it means to do it, use it responsibly, and then actually use it in their work. I was talking to one person today, and she said, we used to have a really good way of doing this. We had citizen teachers. So people would just organically decide that they were going to develop a course and teach people about it. So there was a lot of bottom up excitement around getting people to be more digitally minded. And she's like, I wish we could do that now with AI because we have that, but we just don't have the time. We don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the capacity to train people. So I think this needs, again, to be top down, but also bottom up. But it really needs to be an enterprise-wide commitment to doing this. And what I say to people, a priority right now is to get your entire organization AI fluent. And I ask people, how long do you think that would take? How long would you think if you were to do this? And the estimates is that it takes between 20 and 40 hours of hands-on work and coursework to get to that point of fluency. It's not about knowing everything. The way I think about it is, you know enough to be able to teach somebody else about it. You know enough to feel like I can figure out how to do everything else. Fluency isn't that I can do everything, but it's enough to be able to help me feel like I can hold my own and not have these A1 moments. So people would say they have no idea because they haven't put the plans in place. And so I give them a deadline. I go, you have 6 months. You have 6 months to make sure that everyone in your organization who would need to use AI knows how to use AI. They understand it, they have the tools, they have the ability, they have the training, they have these learning systems in place. And most importantly, you have set aside the training, the support, the resources, and especially the time. And people say, we can't make time. I'm like, I guarantee you, the time you will find from all the value of people being able to use AI, and the job will pay back in multitudes from the time and the investment that you put into it. So the sooner you can get to that, the sooner you will be able to create value. And I believe that the winners will be the ones who commit to doing this as quickly as possible. All right, let me go on. Just 2 more things here. In the same vein that there needs to be an enterprise, and I know that I'm speaking to all of you who are AI optimists and use this all the time, have a personal AI development plan for your own continuous learning. So how are you going to invest in your learning and advancement? And we are all at different levels of doing this. So how are you learning and experimenting with vibe coding? And I'll tell you, I think the real value of vibe coding isn't that, we can make all these products. I mean, I love it because I am not a technologist, I'm not a coder, and I can actually create apps, which is wonderful. I still think it's too confusing right now for what I call prime time. But imagine the time in about a year or so when anybody truly can create their own AI applications. And the real power of this is in the workplace, where every single person can create their own AI apps, can create their own agentic AI to help them get their work done. And that is going to be a very, very different world where these tools are easy, that we have vibe coding tools and platforms that are inside of organizations that people can just easily use that are pre-approved. So again, I think it's less about being able to have everyone do the same thing. It is much more about this democratization and everybody sort of choose their own adventure. And that means, though, that you are going to have to take into your own planning, what is it that you need to learn? So again, identify the things that you have curiosity around. Go to the conferences, sign up for the workshops, and go to them and choose them, not just for the knowledge, but also for the networking. I think you understand from just this group how valuable that connection and the networking and the sharing is. And so definitely go to these conferences and workshops so that you can learn not only from the teachers and instructors, but also from the other attendees. And then sustain those networks, create both internal networks inside of your organization, but also external networks so that you can continue that learning and collaboration. We strongly believe that continuous learning is absolutely one of the most important things to be investing in, both as an organization, but also at that personal level, because you cannot rely on your organization to give you all the information that you need. You really have to take ownership of that yourself. All right, one last point, and then we can open it up for any questions that you may have. And we can make the conversation go any direction that you want. The last priority is kind of a bit counterintuitive. I think this is it's extremely important to invest in developing your human skills. And the reason is that when AI is there to take over the routine tasks, the things that are uniquely human become of even more importance. Critical thinking, emotional intelligence, the ability to navigate uncertainty and ambiguity, the ability to make good judgments, to have self-reflection, have empathy. And in particular, how do you use AI to create the time and the space for you to exercise these things? Because while AI can be empathetic in its approach, it can help you with your self-reflection, it can do all these things to support you in the development of these skills. AI cannot do these things. It's only that things that are uniquely human. And one thing in particular, one skill I think that's going to be very important is storytelling, because part of that transformation that has to happen in organizations is again, transformational change is very different than traditional change management. It requires storytelling. It requires being able to, again, understand where people are coming from, having empathy for their fear and anxiety, but also to craft this vision of the future of what you're trying to build, and to inspire people to say, let's have some curiosity and see what we can do with that future. So I think what we talk about, all the technologies and the great things that AI can do, I believe that the people who develop what we call integrated intelligence, meaning they can take the best of AI and they can take the best of what is uniquely human and marry these two together to create this super intelligence, be superhuman, and be able to do things that we could never have. But it only happens if you do both at the same time. All right, that's what I have. This is my contact information. Again, encourage you to stay in touch. You have my email here, and you can scan this QR code or just go to talk.ac/Charlene and then put in AWAAI, and you'll get a link to the introduction of the book and more information about how to sign up for updates and things like that. All right, I'll leave that up there for a little bit, but any questions, comments, and you can think of this as anything you want. All right, I see a hand up. Evan, go for it.
Yeah, hi, Charlene. And again, sorry, my camera isn't working fully. But very great talk, very inspirational. So how do companies, some companies are out there saying if you don't use AI, your position might be in might be you might be it'll affect your performance review or learn AI or else. How does a company reward or incentivize people to learn? Like, is there a way they can give people time to experiment, as you say, but then reward them and recognize them? How do they do that so it becomes a journey instead of a fear of, if you don't learn this, you're in trouble?
Yeah, again, the reality is in the US, only 39% of people believe that AI is going to be more beneficial than harmful. So the vast majority of people believe it's going to be harmful. And just to give you a counter example, in China, it's 83% of people believe AI is going to be more beneficial than harmful. So it's like twice as many people in China than the US think of AI optimistically. So we are up against this place where people are just really skeptical and very fearful and anxious about AI. I know one organization, they have training for people who are fearful and anxious about AI just to address those fears, because they recognize that unless you talk about those things, they're never going to learn AI. They're just not going to go near it. They'll be dragged to it and they won't want to go near it. And that's not the right way to approach it. And so you take these AI pessimists, you put them in a room and you go, ask me any questions. You have a lot of concerns and questions. Here's the reality, right? This is how it works. And you just answer their questions until they're done. And that just reduces their skepticism. And then you give them the carrot. There's a lot of people who will say, it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's going to be somebody with AI that takes your job. And so the carrot is, we all know AI is going to be the future. We all know that. And we want to prepare you to be the best person in the best possible position, because if you're good at this, then the company's going to benefit. You're going to benefit just overall in your career. So we're going to give you the training. We're going to give you the resources, the support, and very importantly, the time. And this is the most difficult part I find in organizations, is getting agreement from their managers to give them the time to go and not only take the course, but to experiment with it, to play with it, to use it in their work. And experimenting means also failing with it. So, and it's just to try, and some things will work, some things won't work. But it's also, to your point, Evan, about giving people the recognition that when they if they discovered ways of it working and they have that aha moment. I think we all can relate. We all had that aha moment when we go, oh, I get it now. I get how powerful it is. Until you have that moment, you're going to be skeptical. So have people share their aha moments. Have people share what they're able to use AI with. And so again, top down, but also bottom up, and have people share best practices. Have them share, well, this is how I use it in my job. Have brown bag lunches and designate people to be AI champions. And when other people are learning, then have them also teach other people. So again, there are systematic ways to do this, but it's to create this culture of learning, experimenting, and getting over that fear.
Got it.
Okay,
Yes. Thank you very much.
very welcome. Tara, you had a question.
Sure, thank you. So I guess when I hear what you're coming from with IT and HR working together, and I've seen that work in companies that have maybe 100 or so people in their corporate office, where, like, just to age myself, many years ago, I worked for the Yellow Page company, and we invented internet advertising, believe it or not, internet Yellow Pages. So we had to work very tightly with IT to figure out how it would work with us, how it would work with our customers, all of that. And it was fun. But then, I've worked at companies like GE, Honeywell, where you've got thousands of people in the HRP departments, and you've got thousands of people in the IT department. They're very set in their ways. This is your domain. This is our domain. Twixt the two shall meet. How do you see that being a realistic opportunity for those two departments to become one department or be more closely aligned? Because I agree with you. I think these companies that are 100 years old or older, that are just set in their ways, are going to fight that fight.
Yeah, and again, Moderna only has 800 people, right? So they were
Right.
able to be very nimble and make that change. And I think, again, we've been talking about HR transformation for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years. So this is a change that is slow in coming, and HR doesn't see themselves sitting even at the AI table. They're like, we're HR, that's IT. We don't do technology. We don't do math. That's why we're in HR. So it's a really hard slog to get them in there. And so, but I see some HR departments who understand this. And so I'll give you an example. Adobe, right? They had, when they went through the transformation about 10, 12 years ago, they took a really key part of communications and marketing, employee communications, for example. And they took a good chunk of IT and put it into the HR department because they realized that this transformation had to happen there. And they eventually moved it back out again. But again, we've seen some big companies do this, sometimes temporarily, sometimes more full-time, but it's a recognition and maybe a special team. Again, there's a recognition that HR needs to go through a transformation. It is a major conversation at HR department conferences. Yeah. All right, I see a bunch of questions here. Cherie had asked a question, are you defining one type of winning as a company that increases their market presence? No, because you could be winning, and if you're a school, what does that look like? It's actually better student outcomes. Same thing with a healthcare company. It's not better profits or market share, it's better patient outcomes. So winning is defined, again, I believe in defining your metrics of success. So again, how is AI going to help you achieve your metrics of success? And I think of winning with a big, giant W as being society winning, of people winning, not just organizations. So again, just that kind of thing. So again, some people will define it as, again, very tactical and very specific business metrics, but I think we have to be clear about what does it mean to win, because then everyone's pulling in the same direction. All right, let's see. Uvika, do you have a question?
Yes. So as we have started using AI more and more in our jobs, whether it is to help like draft emails or decks or narratives, I sometimes wonder, and especially when you talked about storytelling, I worry, like, are we at risk of losing our story muscle? And how do you recommend using AI as a co-writer without really outsourcing that thinking, that voice and judgment?
Yeah, I can tell you my experience in using AI to write the book. And we have an entire section, an appendix in the book that talks about how we consider AI to be a third collaborator. I wrote it with a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, Katja Welsh, who has been a chief AI officer for 15 years. So the depth of knowledge that she had was invaluable in writing the book. And what we found was AI was very good at doing research, helping us collect all the vast amounts of research that we had and helping us organize it into, in many ways, we used it to help us outline. But when it came to writing, it was not that great. And I used it to help get a first draft down to overcome what we call the tyranny of the blank page. But it was just helpful to get our words literally from our conversations, from our drafts and research and everything into something. But then we had to go back and rewrite everything because it just wasn't fluid, didn't capture our ideas. And frankly, the process of writing makes you think.
Yeah.
And so that said, the way I use AI to stay sharp, I use this, I say this thing, AI is creative because I ask it creative questions.
Yeah.
And so instead of getting lazy, I use my creativity, my critical thinking to challenge AI to challenge me. And I do this thing where at the end of each prompt, I'll ask, before you start, ask me any clarifying questions you may have, because that changes AI from being a question and answer a collaboration to truly being a conversation. And so instead of just using AI as my shortcut to getting things done, I'm using it to help me think. And here's the advanced trick is I'll take that prompt, the entire prompt with that clarifying question thing at the end, I'll copy and paste it into multiple AI LLMs, and I'll see which one asks me the best questions. And that's the one I will use for that particular task, because it understands the context of what I'm doing and thinking about. So some really take advantage of the memory inside, and ChatGPT is fantastic at leveraging memory. Claude is really good at particular writing and to some degree also the reasoning. Gemini is great at just taking huge amounts of information and making sense of it. It does it better than anyone else. But they all just have their good days and their bad days, and it changes constantly. And you have to try all the different models too as well. You're doing reasoning tasks, are you doing more writing? You use Claude Sonnet versus Opus 4.5. I mean, there's just so many options. So instead of trying to keep track of which is the best one, I just test all of them and see which one is actually going to do the best job for that day, that moment, for that task.
Amazing. I loved when you said that they all have their good and bad days. I'm like, that sounds like a woman like me.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you, Charlene.
Padmini. Yeah, Padmini, you had a question.
Yeah. Hey, Charlene, great presentation. Loved it, especially the personal AI development plan. I love that. Just crafting something around that. So, with regard to that, how do you keep up with all the AI tools and news and everything that it's like drinking from the fire hose? Do you have like a strategy to keep up with it?
No, I basically, here's my two strategies. I have people send me articles. I have a feed and I try to go through it as much as I can. And I know I miss things. And then people ask me a question and I don't know the answer. And then I go do research on it. That is literally my method to my madness. And so people started talking about MCP. I'm like, what is MCP? I need to go figure what MCP is. So dug into MCP. People started talking about vibe coding. I'm like, okay, what is this vibe coding thing? Did my project, pulled my hair out. I can talk about vibe coding now. I'm working with N8N to just do some agentic workflows. I'm using custom GPTs with the actions. I have got a gazillion custom GPTs and projects that I have lined up. And so it's primarily when people ask me questions around it, or I see a discussion around it, like it keeps and it's persisting, that's when I look at it. And so I don't try to pretend to know everything. And if they don't know, I'm like, let me look into it.
Yeah.
So again, it's impossible. I could spend all my time just reading everything and it wouldn't get me anywhere.
Yeah, just the feeling of overwhelm is so real with AI.
Well, here's the thing, right? I think we have to get very used to this. And the way I think about it, be very strategic. Again, what are you trying to accomplish? What are your top objectives? And only look at the things that help you achieve those top objectives. I mean, if agentic AI and workflow automation is not really the thing that you have that's important to you, and instead it's about using digital twins and be able to create synthetic data to be able to create more personalized messages and to understand your customers better, forget agentic AI. It doesn't help you unless it's really helping with your workflows that you are redesigning to take advantage of all these deep things that you can do with synthetic data. Do you see what I'm saying? So be really selective about the things you want to go deep in, because you don't need to know everything. You need to know the things that are going to help you create the value that's most important to your organization.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Rupa.
Yeah, hi. First of all,
Hi.
thank you for really distilling all the lessons learned in 25 and what's coming in 26. One of the things you mentioned was that we should stop piloting and start strategizing, and it needs to come from top down. You also gave an example of senior leader who didn't know what AI was and called it A1. What are you seeing? Are the industry leaders really educating themselves? Because if they are the ones creating these initiatives, top level initiatives, and they themselves are not educated, how do you see that succeeding?
It doesn't. It doesn't. And it's the thing I say over and over again. Like, everyone needs to learn AI, but your leaders need to be the ones saying everyone needs to learn AI. And it starts with me demonstrating I'm on this learning path. I don't know everything. This is what the things I'm learning. And for them to share what they're learning and what they don't know is a really important thing, because it makes it normal for everyone to be on a learning path. And leaders don't
That's
like to admit that they don't know everything.
Yeah, and that's where they need to be vulnerable and say that here's my journey and here's how I am coming up to speed with it.
So the way I'll do is there's safety in numbers with leaders. And so I'll take an entire group of leaders and then give them a 2-hour workshop to just get them over that edge of fear. And they can ask any questions that they want. We won't laugh. They can ask, like, how do I even create a good prompt? And they don't know how to create a good prompt. They don't know how to set up the roles and the context to give the information and understand the outputs. I give them that little thing about asking clarifying questions, and they're like mind blown. So again, just showing these are basic things. They do not have training on this. No one has ever showed them. The training is all about what the technology does, not how to use it. So I have a big beef with the way most training works. So and so the best thing we can do is, if you have an executive in your organization that does not feel comfortable, say, would you like 15 minutes to just go through AI and answer any questions that you have? And to just set that time aside. And so just take 15 minutes and do this. Let's go get lunch and we can do this at your computer, or whatever it is, right? Just to lower the stakes, increase the learning. And the number one thing I tell people, and I ask them, do you use it? And they go, oh, I use it for like emails. I'm like, oh, that's great. So every time you have to do a task, ask yourself, how could I use AI to do this task? You're writing a presentation. How can I use AI to do this? You're about to go use Google. Could AI do a better job of this? And you won't know unless you try it. So it is this mindset shift. And they all have access to these powerful tools, but they just don't think to use it. And so you have to get them over that hurdle to have that AI aha moment, and they will just go bonkers after that.
Agreed. Thanks.
Amrita, did you have a question?
No, not a question, but I would like to share my experience based on the presentation you have given. I've really enjoyed looking at all the priorities, and I felt like, okay, I'm on the right track because the kind of explanation you just gave to Padmini that yes, we are, kind of overwhelmed with a lot of tools coming up every day. The other day, I was thinking like it's hard for me to keep up with learning all the tools. So, what I should be doing? Then thought came in my mind. It's just like we have to take a step back and we have to think what are the actual use cases I will be needing, and accordingly, I will be learning, spending at least one or two tools in a comprehensive manner. So, and by listening to your kind of feedback, I felt like I am on the right track. So kudos to you for sharing that experience. And I really like the priority section because it's just like kind of, giving us the roadmap to follow in 2026. And I really like that thought process of 2026 will differentiate winners from, those who are not practicing AI. So that's the thought I would like to share with you.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad it's resonating. So
Yeah.
glad to hear that.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. So I'm looking through the chat. I may have missed any questions, but any other questions? I
We have
know we're getting up to
Zeba.
the end of the time. Oh, here you go, Ziba, go for it.
I wanna continue on what Amruta was saying. Like, I think this has rang very true about feeling overwhelmed of not reading. Like, I literally have a time set on my calendar that I have to read my AI newsletters during this half hour. And I still sometimes miss that because it's obviously very chaotic all the time. Like, something's happening. I'm living alone. There's like a lot of things that happen with that. And I love the presentation, Charlene. I think this was beautiful. It was so concise and it just like spoke true to whatever is happening in today's world. You spoke about learning development and like basically personal development, and I really agree with that. I For next year, because I have been like feeling that I lag behind. What I'm doing is just an idea for anyone who wants to pick it up is I'm creating like a personal curriculum, like a book curriculum for myself, where I'm like making myself a curriculum of books I want to read. So a lot of it is AI focused as well. And I'm just like making myself go through those books one by one in next year and make sure I get and stay updated. And knowing that you have written a book as well, that's definitely going on my list. And I just wanted to thank you for the presentation and thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're very welcome.
It was
I'll
really
give
good to end 2025 with this session.
good. Yeah,
Yay.
I'll tell you, one of the workflows I'm working on right now is sort of like a personalized newsletter consolidator, because I find that they say the same things, a lot of them. And so I, instead of having to plow through every single one, I'm having them consolidated. So what's the most important things that people are constantly saying? So rank them in terms of like frequency and importance, the frequency of being mentioned, and then also highlight the things that are truly unique. And then the third section are case studies, because I always want to hear about case studies, but they're sometimes buried
I love that,
someplace.
Charlene. That's amazing.
So
I love it.
yeah, so I can just throw all the newsletters, whatever I find, into my feed and my RSS feed, and I will take that RSS feed and just process it once a day and give me this document. And I only have to read one thing. And I can go back and link to anything that I want to go deeper in.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I need this filter because otherwise I will go insane. Yeah. Sherry, go ahead. Oh, you're muted. No, still can't hear you. Sorry. No.
No.
Oh, I hate it when that happens. Give it another chance.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Oh, no.
No.
No, I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
As the oldest person on this Zoom and listening to you, I obviously have a very different perspective than the young ones. I use AI daily, have for years. I do it with much more discipline than exercising, for example. And I use my guilt of not exercising with AI to pretend I have exercised, but a different way. And I think one of the things to keep perspective is that the people who still rule the world are people who are using younger people with their AI basically right now to target how you can. When I was saying about winning, I was talking about the only way you can win, and you said not to worry about the bottom line, but people still care about the bottom line. They really do care
Oh,
about, because they're public companies, they have to care. But when the
right.
older people die out and all of you young ones are in control, it will be a very different world. Linda McMahon can get away saying A1 because she has enough billions to make it a dinner party joke and everybody toasting her and saying, "Oh, I loved it. I loved it." It doesn't even make a small dent because she doesn't need the job. And I think people have to keep perspective of one of the interesting things that are happening, why people are not adopting so quickly in the corporate world, or they did and they feel that it was an error, is that they can't see the incremental gain yet, how the marketing tools, which would give them a greater return, how it's going to really, what's the cost of doing that? How much more effort? And that's the lens I see. The world is changing rapidly only because people are losing their jobs because the machines can do their jobs. But when the older people who have lots of money go away, it's going to be very different. And I think that winning right around the corner is going to be solopreneurs hoping they can be like the McMahons who made money off of wrestling, um, like that. So I think the
Yeah.
case studies down the road are, you're at B school. And so I did enough case studies hanging out in that neighborhood to understand the process. I think the case studies from 2026 onward are going to get a lot more interesting.
Yeah, let me give you an idea of what I'm planning on doing. I'm a solopreneur. I have no desire to hire any employees. I used to have an analyst firm and a ton of analysts and a ton of consultants. And my goal is to create an agentic firm that would do very much the same thing. So I'm writing a book about how to create value with AI, and in particular, how to create an AI roadmap. So people are going to come to me and say, help me create my AI roadmap. And I can go and deploy my agents to do as many stakeholder interviews as they want. You want 30? You want 300? Sure, my agents will take care of it. I can ingest all the strategic documents across all of the various stakeholders and have my agents make sense of that. And then I can have another agent actually take all of that and norm it and put it into an AI roadmap. And I can do this for them in 2 weeks. That's my
Sounds
business
good.
plan.
Will you
So,
have a large villa to entertain us?
so again, I just feel like the rules are being completely rewritten. And so, I didn't put this in here, but I do believe that the skill that's going to be the most important skill is imagination. We cannot even begin to imagine what this world would look like. And I still believe, again, when we talk about creating value, of course it's going to be like bottom line. Hopefully it's triple bottom line, where we're looking at profit, we're looking at climate, planet, and we're looking at people also as well. So triple bottom line, ideally. but also just this larger way of thinking, how do we make the world better? How do we make our lives better? How do we make our society better? How do we make our schools better? I would love for us to be, instead of teaching knowledge in our schools, when knowledge is a commodity, to be teaching wisdom and judgment. Again, I think that we'd be so much better off if we would dedicate time to do that. And because knowledge will now be just available for us at our fingertips. So so I think these kind of shifts in that imagination, what that world is going to look like, is going to be so important. And I don't think, Cherie, that it's only for the young people. I'm probably the same age as you. I just look a lot younger because of hair dye
No.
and Botox.
And I'm dying to know if you went to school with a woman whose married name is Poole, Yvonne Poole. You're the same age. She's my neighbor. She's in the top 10 lead at Microsoft. She has 8 kids who are homeschooled, and guess how they get by? Using AI. They know more AI between the ages, well, the 2-year-old doesn't, between 6 and 17, that would blow you away. They are the future. And being so close to them, I can envision what the future is going to look like. And they care about culture and empathy and all that. So I'm pretty happy that,
Great
and
example.
she's Chinese and the dad is from Georgia. So that's quite a mix.
Yeah. All right, I know we're at time. Any other
Yes.
questions or comments you all have?
Oh my God. Everybody's enthusiastic about AI when on a Wednesday evening we're all sitting here so late in the evening talking about AI. So,
This
no,
was truly phenomenal, Charlene. I'm
no
just
problem.
so thankful. Padmini and I are so grateful to you. This was one of the best sessions for the year, and I'm so glad we had it, as the last one for the year for Innovate in Advance. So thank you so much.
Yes. And stay tuned. We
All
have
right.
one more session at the end of the year, but that's a different series, the Learn and Lead, and we are going to talk about bias and data and algorithms. And that's going to be on December 19th at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's a morning session because the person speaking will be speaking from India. So, but thank you all. Thank you so much, Charlene. This was amazing.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
It was
Thank you
great.
so
everyone.
much.
Take
Have a good
care.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.